Good morning, everyone, and very welcome to this symposium. On behalf of the Royal Swedish Academy of Sciences, it is my pleasure as the president of the Academy to welcome you all to the symposium that will address how plants may help us meet the most important challenges that are facing humankind. This symposium is organized in collaboration with the Scandinavian Plant Physiology Society and the Swedish Research Council. Let me first say a few words about our Academy. We are proud to say that we are one of the oldest academies in the world. I think we're number 4 in the chronology, founded in 1739 by 6 scientists, one of whom was no one less than Carl Linnaeus, who at that time had just turned 32, and 2 of his fellow co-founders were younger than him. Here you see a couple of other prominent members of our Academy, Jacob Berzelius, the father of the chemical terminology, and Alfred Nobel. Our Academy has as our main aim to promote the sciences and strengthen their influence in society. We do this in many different ways, one of which is, of course, to reward important scientific contributions by selecting recipients of science prizes and making this widely known, because this is an excellent opportunity to spread scientific knowledge to the general public via the media. This includes, of course, the Nobel Prizes, but also the Crafoord Prizes, the Aminoff Prize in Crystallography, teacher prizes, and several more. Other prioritized work in our Academy is called Science for Policy, which means that we strive to offer scientifically based information to decision makers. And we also strive to advise politicians how to create the best possible conditions for scientific progress, that is, policy for science. And the best possible symbol for our efforts that I can think of is to show how we plant the tree of knowledge for our descendants. On a more personal basis, I'd like to say that when I was a PhD student, I was sequencing along genes on a daily basis in mouse and human, struggling with the various repeated sequences and elements of various types. And I remember very well when the Nobel Prize in 1983 was awarded to Barbara McClintock for her groundbreaking discovery of transposable elements in maize. And that was the Nobel Prize in Physiology or Medicine, which I think is very encouraging to hear that this groundbreaking work in plants received recognition in that community. Several years later, it was shown that the wrinkled pea phenotype in peas described by Gregor Mendel much earlier was actually caused, the phenotype was caused by one of the transposons described by Barbara McClintock. And I found this to be a really wonderful coincidence, bringing together these 2 giants in the field of genetics. Maybe we'll hear more about this in the first lecture in a moment, if this story still holds the way I read about it in those days. Plants offer really wonderful opportunities to impress people with genetic facts. One of my favorite examples when I give popular science lectures on evolution is to explain that a spruce has a genome size 6 to 7 times that of a human being. Everybody is surprised and impressed by that. And one of my favorite conversation lines at dinners is to ask people around the table if they can say which food item on the plate has the largest number of genes. Often the potatoes are probably the best bet, with some 39,000 genes, almost twice as many as a human being. Everyone is humbled by this. And if the dessert will contain strawberries, this will make my day. With a gene count of probably 100,000 or so, versus our 20,000, every dinner participant will be filled with awe and admiration. The domesticated strawberry, as you know, has undergone multiple tetraploidizations, which is another genetic mechanism where plants excel. I myself am working with the 2 basal tetraploidizations in the vertebrates, and we look with a mixture of envy and fear on the complex ploidy version of some of the plant lineages. So, no doubt, plants offer fantastic possibilities, and we will surely hear much more about this today. And with that, I wish you all a very rewarding symposium with inspiring discussions. Once again, very welcome.
Okay, thank you, Don. And my name is Stefan Jansson, and I am a member of the Academy of Science, the class of Biological Sciences, but I'm also the president of Scandinavian Plant Physiology Society. So I'm also on behalf of SPPS. I say welcome to you to this symposium. The background to this, if Don explained what is the role of the Academy in general. We should do science for policy for science and science for policy. And as part of that, a couple of years ago, the class of biological sciences, we selected a little committee that should deal with plant breeding, novel methods, including GMOs and so. And this consisted from me, from Roland von Bottmer, and from Torbjörn Fagerström, and Olle Bosemark. So we started our work, and we thought, okay, if we're gonna bring this issue about plant breeding and saving the world, where should we start? We had a lot of discussions, and finally we concluded that we should make a book. We should write a book. And some of you may have seen that this is the result that was published now 4 years ago. It has the focus about genetically modified plants. So that was so far so good. But I must tell you that Olle Bosemark, he's not the author of this book because he never really liked the idea about writing a book. He said all the time, no, we shouldn't make a book, we should make a symposium instead. And we discussed back and forth. And then Olle passed away 2 years ago at the age of 94. So he served his duty very well. About at that time, we kept on discussing in the class, where should we go now? What should the academy do to promote these things in society, to bring more light into society about this? And then we brought this idea up again that why don't we make a symposium? Why don't we invite some of the prominent plant scientists from Europe or the world here to explain what has happened in the past? But more importantly, try to look forward to see what could we do next? Why are we here? Where are we heading? What are the challenges on the partly on the academic side? What do we need to know more about in order to save the world? But also on the other side, what is limiting the advances or the new knowledge that has been generated in the academy? What is limiting the use of this in society? So could we help the world even better than we do today? So this is why we are sitting here today. And I see if I go in the right direction. So this is actually this is a picture of Arabidopsis thaliana. This is our favorite model plant in the lab. So a lot of plant genetics and a lot of basic plant research is being done on Arabidopsis thaliana. It's not very good for eating though, so we won't save the world by growing a lot of nice Arabidopsis plants. But of course, the knowledge needs to be transferred from these simple systems for this basic knowledge and into society, into producing food, producing feed, producing other goods for society. And this is really this interface between basic research and applied research. This is what we would like to discuss today. But as a plant scientist, of course, I would like to advocate that we are doing an important work, not only since we are providing the scientific background for improved food production systems and so on, but also since we are important for scientific development in general. And of course, you all know these things. Nowadays we talk about cells, systematics is an important thing, evolution is something that is we all know is a driving force, and genetics, viruses, enzymes, these are these general terms that even people outside of science is using, if not on a daily basis, at least regularly. And I used to point out that all of these terms, they were actually originally coined by plant scientists. So Robert Hooke, he was looking in cork slivers back more or less in the medieval age with his first microscopy. And that's where he sort of coined that some cork is made up of cells. Linnaeus, when he made his efforts to systematics, actually started with plants. So the systematics of plant was his first scientific endeavor. Charles Darwin, you may not know it, but of course he was also a plant scientist. Sometimes he's been said that he was the founder of plant hormone research. I don't know whether you agree that it's true, but at least he did some very important discoveries back in the 19th centuries about mobile signal in plants. And he based a lot of his, it was Darwin finches, okay, but he started to look at the genetic variety that were inside the crops that we cultivate and eat. Genetics, Mendel was counting peas, and so on. We have the more recent discoveries. Don mentioned Barbara McClintock here. Even when you come to RNAi and epigenetics, there's also plant scientists that were really out there in the beginning. So we can do things not only for ourselves, but actually provide knowledge and provide new concepts to biology by large. So I hope that some of these things will be revealed a little bit more to you during this day in the symposium. And the general idea here, we will start with 3 talks by scientists that will try to explain. We know that there is scientists in the audience, but it's not only a scientific audience. There is also quite a number of people of you that don't have a scientific background. So we should try to, these people have the task, the 2 marks, and not the lead, to try to explain why plant science is important, what we have done in the past, what we can do in the future. And then there will be these discussions. We have invited some panelists that would come more from the scientific or from the societal side to say that, okay, we want this from you, plant scientists, and we, plant scientists, want something from the society as well. We will have plenty of time for discussion in the afternoon, and I hope that you will all be able to stay to the end of the meeting and participate in the discussions.